How's it going, YouTube? Happy Monday night. I hope, as always, whenever and wherever you are at, things are going well for you. And I just wanted to take a few moments, hopefully a few moments, not like half an hour, to talk about some developments regarding the Canadian Freedom Convoy and those protests happening in Canada. Again, to all of our friends up there in Canada who are protesting, you guys are doing wonderful. A lot of us in the U.S. support you. Sympathetic protests and copycat protests have sprung up around the world in solidarity, but also out of inspiration for what you guys in Canada have been doing. And so good for you guys. We're hoping you guys see your message all the way through and that the political change you are looking for manifests. But I do want to talk about some of the consequences, so to speak, of protesting, especially as the American Freedom Convoy equivalent, the People's Convoy, is getting set to announce their itinerary, their dates, their tour, their intentions. Allegedly supposed to happen sometime in the next 24 hours. I don't know when, but I'm assuming it will be probably before close of business, as it were, tomorrow, which is going to be Tuesday, February 8th. What's been happening in Canada, though, is deeply concerning, because a lot of the same tactics that the Canadian officials at the local level, as well as in some cases the provincial level, some of the actions they've been taking or seeking to take or considering taking are very alarming and should be paid attention to very closely by, well, anyone or everyone who, as I turn my headlights on and take care of half my lighting, by anyone who is seeking to participate in these protests. Number one, wherever you seek to protest, if you are in small enough numbers and you do not have any sympathetic supporters nearby to help protect you, you are at the mercy of the local law enforcement and establishment of governance, whether that is at a city level, a village level, a municipal level in any capacity, or at the mercy, as it were, of the highway patrol or state police or whatever equivalent that you are up against during the conduct of your protest. Number two, you will be slandered, lied about, dragged through the mud, falsely accused and labeled by the local media that is opposed to you, as well as potentially the state and national media, depending on if the given states have that many levels of media to get angry about the protesting situations. Number three, people will seek to use your protest as an excuse to carry out whatever their agenda might be on a personal or political or both level. That could mean inciting violence, or destroying property, or causing or engaging in vandalism and or other violent activities, all close enough to your protest. And if you have no supporters, and if you don't have enough people watching and making sure that they're in contact with the authorities at on a local level, you could be falsely accused of a whole host of activities and or actions that you personally were not involved in, but because you are by proxy involved in a certain situation, you may end up paying the price for somebody else's actions. So you need to take that into account and be very serious about your position before you engage in a protest, because there could be significant consequences to you personally, politically, financially, and legally. So very crucial that you be mindful of what's about to happen, and that you are with like-minded people who understand the stakes and the consequences, and who can make sure that your situation, your protest area, you've got enough like-minded supporters to make sure that you are secure, and that you have enough witnesses supporting each other to make sure that anyone who would seek to then do something and then blame you cannot successfully do so. Lastly, If you're an owner-operator seeking to engage in the protest with your truck and you have your own operating authority, you have your own equipment, that is entirely 100% under your liability. That is going to be your problem, so to speak, to deal with. Any costs you incur, any lost business as a result of your participation in the protest is 100% borne by you as a solo owner-operator under your own operating authority. No problem with that. I'm not saying you should not protest. I'm just saying to draw a distinction that if you have your own operating authority, you have the freedom to engage in these activities because you're not dragging somebody else's name into a political situation. For example, I am an owner-operator, but I am leased on with another carrier. Now, if there is a protest going to happen in the Chicago area, depending on its nature, its size, scope, message, date, time, whatever, I will be seeking to participate in a peaceful fashion, so long as I agree with the message and I agree with the method. Blocking interstates does not sit well with me because people need to get to and from O'Hare Airport, Midway Airport. They need to get to work. They need to get, go on vacation, take trips, see family, whatever. So I do not sit well with blocking interstates and obstructing traffic. That is not going to be something that I'm going to support. However, if there's going to be, setting up areas where people can still get around the protest zone through alternate routes, and there's limited impact to people being able to still move around, I'll support that 100% because it's not impacting negatively an entire city or an entire region, because it's going to be a focused and condensed protest, still communicating the message, but not turning the people who we would like to have on our side against us by interfering with their lives. That's going to be a major risk. Now, again, I'm talking about me as an owner-operator, at least I'm with somebody else. I am not going to bring my truck to any protest. That is not going to happen because it's not my name and my operating authority on the side of my truck. So because I represent another carrier by my words, my actions, how I conduct myself with customers and with my dispatcher, as well as whenever I have interactions with DOT, or anyone else, how I behave in traffic, how I, whether speeding, not speeding, in small towns, taking wrong turns, whatever, all of those things add up to a message that is then potentially communicated to the carrier that I drive for, and they could then choose to no longer retain me as an owner-operator because they feel I'm not conducting myself appropriately as per the standards they have set down. Now, when it comes to political statements like protests and things of that nature, because it's not my name on the side of my truck, I am not going to speak for the carrier that I drive for by bringing my equipment with their name on the side of it to any protest, because I don't want any negative messaging or negative attention paid to the carrier that I work for, because they did not approve my position or my participation with my truck, because again, it is my name or their name on the side of the truck, and they are allowing me to operate under their authority. So anything I do could potentially negatively impact that carrier. And they're good people. I have no reason to complain about them. I don't have any reason to speak ill of them, especially. And I also have no reason to have them dragged through the mud because I happen to associate myself with a protest, because I believe firmly in the message of a protest. So any other owner-operators who are leased onto a carrier, I would recommend significant caution about bringing your truck into a protest when it's not your name on the side of it, because the people who will be opposing any trucking protests will seek to use whatever tool at their disposal they can get their hands on to demean, slander, lie, and ruin, canceling, whatever you want to talk about or however you want to term it, the people who are participating in the protest. They're going to array themselves against all of you who are protesting and all of us who are, sharing the message, so to speak, however they possibly can. They're going to try very hard to destroy us in any way they possibly can, whether physical destruction by attacking our equipment or our persons, or destroying us in a business sense by cutting off our revenue by attacking the customers or the carriers or terminal facilities or whatever, or just slashing tires or disabling trailers or whatever they can. So we have to be mindful as leased on owner operators that we don't represent ourselves, we represent who we drive for. And we have to take care of those people and be mindful of their position and their concerns and their needs as well as their rights, because we do not have the right to speak for them unless that right has been granted to us through some communication from the owner to the driver, or the leadership of that company to the owner operator. So if your company you're leased on with supports the protests and is 100% okay with you bringing the truck and or the trailer to a protest, great, good for that company. That's awesome, fantastic, because that company has decided that they are going to accept the risk of potential damage or financial fallout from potential customers or current customers they have, who may not seek to do business with them anymore, or even brokers or whoever else. However, if the company you're leased on with does not approve your position or does not want to support participating in the protest, now it is your responsibility to ensure that any participation you engage in does not negatively affect that company, because they have the right to make their position known to their drivers. They have the right to determine what their policy is regarding these protests and mandates. They have the right to determine for themselves what their stance is going to be, supporting, not supporting, neutral, indifferent, whatever. And then it is our responsibility as the drivers to ensure we're complying with that, because again, the company does have the ability to terminate our lease contracts, as well as, if you're a company driver, terminate your employment, because what you're doing reflects on them. And there are going to be some companies who will have a hardline stance against any protests, and some will be very much in favor of them, and some will be very indifferent, but it's going to be a case-by-case basis. So some of you folks might think I'm against the protests. I am not. I support them as long as the message is clear, it is direct, it is concise, it is focused, because just protesting to protest, what's the point? The First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States specifically says, well, I'm going to paraphrase it, that the right of the people to peaceably assemble to petition Congress for a redress of grievances shall not be infringed. Now, that's a very horrible paraphrase, but that is enshrined in law. Peaceable assembly to petition a legislative body for a redress of grievances, meaning, we don't like the mandates, we don't like, the mask rules, we don't like this, that, or the other. We're going to peaceably assemble to petition our legislative body for a redress of grievances. That is legally enshrined in law. That is legally protected. That is protected speech. And as long as we engage in protected speech, any government official or entity or body seeking to then infringe upon that right moves into the wrong and exposes themselves to legal repercussions. Because as long as the assembly remains peaceful and there is a petition for redress of grievances in some capacity, the legislative body, whether it's a local body or a state body or a federal body, is obligated to hear those grievances and then address them and make redress, as it were. So that is how I interpret constitutional law. I may be incorrect in some capacity, but I feel I'm correct enough to make that statement, and feel pretty confident that the point I'm trying to make is getting across, at least in theory. So yes, I support the protests. I support our friends in Canada and their stance, because COVID has become endemic. A lot of states are starting to recognize that fact, so we're going to start seeing, in theory, some rollbacks, hopefully more sooner rather than later, but time will tell. But if you are someone who's going to be seeking to participate in any trucking protests, please be mindful that people will be looking for any opportunity they can to attack you politically, as well as maybe physically. So you need to be able to protect yourself by maintaining a peaceful stance, as well as ensuring that whoever seeks to stand against you in a physical fashion and is doing so with intent to cause you bodily harm in a very, unfriendly or, illegal stance by just, coming against you improperly, that you have witnesses, that you have support, that you are not alone, that you're not going off alone, chasing after groups of protesters who are trying to bait you out into an action where they can then, take you apart on their own by separating you from the herd, so to speak. And that also you're taking care of your equipment, that you have, financial support and backing to ensure you've got food and fuel and things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the People's Convoy announces, keeping my eye on it. I'm part of the new Facebook group, and As long as there's a protest in my area that I feel I can participate in safely with a focused message, I will absolutely participate, and I look forward to networking and meeting some new friends along the way and joining forces with my brothers and sisters who are sharing my same position and who are sharing the road with me. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you took some things to heart, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you very much, and I'll see you down the road.